Hey, what are you doing out here? You don't live in this neighborhood.
I'm not bothering anyone. Keep moving.
Don't tell me what to do. You're loitering.
Officer, do not escalate. I'm working.
Working? Yeah, planning your next robbery.
Undercover FBI. You just blew a federal operation. This will cost your department a lot.
The body cam is shaking as the rookie officer rushes forward. No intro, no explanation, just pressure from the very first frame. A black woman stands alone on the sidewalk outside Willow Creek Estates. Calm, focused, but the tension you feel is instant. Then the officer snaps, "Hey, what are you doing out here? You don't live in this neighborhood." She doesn't flinch. "I'm working. Keep moving." But what happens next, this single ignorant decision, did more than ruin a federal investigation. It triggered national outrage, tore through social media, and sparked one of the most expensive federal interference lawsuits the city has ever faced. $12 million. A shaky flash, her gold FBI credentials hitting the camera frame. Undercover FBI. You just blew a federal operation. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared. But what pushed this rookie officer to escalate so fast? And what did he never expect the body cam to capture?
Willow Creek Estates, Georgia, an affluent gated community 20 miles north of Atlanta. Manicured lawns, luxury vehicles in driveways, property values averaging $850,000. The kind of neighborhood where homeowners associations enforce paint color codes and security patrols check license plates of unfamiliar vehicles. It was 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in September. Golden hour sunlight filtered through oak trees lining pristine streets. Quiet, peaceful. Exclusive. Special Agent Kendra Mitchell had been conducting surveillance for 3 weeks. She was 34 years old, 8 years with the FBI's Atlanta field office, assigned to the Violent Crime Task Force. Her current investigation involved a human trafficking ring operating across 3 states: procurement, transportation, exploitation. The kind of case that required months of patient observation, careful documentation, and absolute operational security. The target residence was 2847 Magnolia Drive, a 2-story colonial owned by Marcus Chen, a suspected facilitator who'd been linked to 6 missing persons cases. Mitchell's surveillance had confirmed patterns: vehicles arriving late evening, brief visits, occupants matching descriptions of trafficking victims. She was building evidence for a federal warrant, evidence that required visual confirmation of Chen's movements, license plate documentation, and timing patterns. That evening, she was positioned on Oakwood Lane, a perpendicular street offering sightlines to Chen's driveway. She wore business casual clothing, dark slacks, a plain blouse, comfortable shoes. Nothing tactical, nothing that screamed law enforcement. Her service weapon was concealed. Her FBI credentials were in her jacket pocket. Her surveillance notes were in a nondescript notebook that looked like any professional's daily planner. She was standing near a street sign, phone in hand, appearing to anyone who glanced her way like someone waiting for a ride or checking directions. Standard undercover protocol. Blend in. Maintain operational security. Document without drawing attention. Officer Ryan Caldwell had been with the Willow Creek Police Department for exactly 4 months. At 23 years old, he was fresh from the academy, assigned to evening patrol, eager to prove himself. His training evaluations had noted concerns. Demonstrates tendency toward assumption-based decisions. Should improve assessment skills before solo assignment. But staffing shortages meant rookies were patrolling alone within weeks of graduation. That evening, Caldwell received a call from Willow Creek Security. Resident complaint. Suspicious black female on Oakwood Lane. Doesn't belong to any household. Standing around for over 30 minutes. Residents are concerned.
Caldwell responded within 3 minutes. His body cam activated automatically as he exited his patrol car. The footage shows his approach: fast, aggressive, no tactical assessment. He saw a black woman in an affluent white neighborhood, and his training failed him completely.
Instead of professional inquiry, he made immediate assumptions. The body cam audio picks up his first words, delivered with hostile authority. "Hey, what are you doing out here? You don't live in this neighborhood." Kendra's response was controlled, professional, designed to de-escalate without revealing her operation. "I'm working. Keep moving." But Officer Caldwell heard defiance where there was actually federal authority. He stepped closer, his voice rising. "Working? Doing what? This is a private community. You're trespassing." The body cam captured Kendra's face clearly. No panic, no guilt, just immediate recognition that this officer was about to compromise months of work. Her voice remained calm but carried unmistakable warning. "Officer, you need to step back and return to your vehicle. I'm conducting business that doesn't concern you." Caldwell's face flushed. The body cam shows his expression shifting from suspicion to wounded ego. "Who do you think you're talking to? Show me ID now." Kendra glanced toward Shen's residence. A vehicle was in the driveway, target vehicle she'd been documenting for weeks. Chen was visible through the front window. This was exactly the kind of moment she needed to observe, and this rookie cop was destroying it. "I don't have to show you anything. I'm not violating any law. Move along." What would you have done in her position? Let me know in the comments. Officer Caldwell's training had emphasized compliance. Commands must be followed. Authority must be respected. Resistance indicates guilt. But his training had failed to emphasize assessment, the critical skill of evaluating whether authority should be exercised in the first place. "You're loitering in a private community. That's trespassing. I'm ordering you to provide identification or you'll be detained." Kendra's jaw tightened. The body cam captured her frustration, barely contained beneath professional composure. "This is not a private community. This is a public street. I have every legal right to be here, and you have zero probable cause to demand identification." Caldwell reached for his radio. "Dispatch, I have a subject refusing lawful commands at Oakwood and Magnolia. Need backup." Before dispatch could respond, Kendra made a calculated decision. The surveillance was compromised anyway. Chen had likely noticed the patrol car. The operation was blown. So she reached slowly into her jacket pocket and pulled out her FBI credentials.
The body cam captured the moment clearly. Gold badge, FBI emblem, special agent credentials with her photo, name, and serial number. She held it at eye level, 2 feet from Caldwell's face. "FBI, Special Agent Kendra Mitchell, you are interfering with a federal investigation. Stand down immediately." The body cam shows Caldwell's face. Not recognition, not apology, skepticism and defensive anger. He squinted at the credentials, his voice dripping with disbelief. "Fake badge. You people buy these online all the time." Kendra's eyes widened slightly, the first break in her professional composure. The body cam audio picked up her response, measured but carrying steel beneath. "You people, officer, you need to verify these credentials through your dispatch right now. Call the FBI Atlanta field office. They will confirm my identity and active status." Caldwell waved dismissively. "I'm not calling anyone until you're properly identified. Turn around, hands behind your back." At Chen's residence, movement. The target vehicle backing out of the driveway, Chen leaving. 3 weeks of surveillance positioning about to be wasted because a rookie cop couldn't recognize federal credentials. Kendra's voice rose for the first time. "That vehicle is my surveillance target. You are actively destroying a federal operation." Caldwell grabbed her arm. "Stop yelling. You're under arrest for disorderly conduct." The body cam captured everything. Kendra's badge falling from her hand, Caldwell's fingers digging into her bicep, the target vehicle driving past them, Chen's face visible through the window, clearly noting the commotion. The entire operation compromised in real time. Kendra tried to pull her arm free, not to resist arrest, but instinctive reaction to unexpected physical contact. Caldwell interpreted it as resistance. "Stop resisting!" His voice cracked with panic and adrenaline. "I'm not resisting. I'm an FBI agent, and you just destroyed a human trafficking investigation. Have you ever seen an officer ignore ID like this?" Drop your thoughts below. What happened next was captured from two angles. Caldwell's body cam provided close-up documentation of every constitutional violation. A resident across the street, drawn by the commotion, recorded cell phone video that captured the broader scene. Caldwell yanked Kendra's arm and spun her toward his patrol car. The body cam shows her face striking the vehicle's hood, not violently, but with enough force that the impact was audible. Her FBI credentials lay on the ground where they'd fallen. Gold badge catching evening sunlight. Kendra's training emphasized de-escalation, even under assault. Her voice remained controlled despite obvious pain. "You are interfering with a federal investigation. Stop now. Verify my credentials. Call your supervisor. This is your last chance to correct this mistake." Caldwell pulled handcuffs from his belt. "Stop resisting arrest!" The cell phone video shows clearly Kendra wasn't resisting. Her hands were raised, her body language non-threatening, her movements deliberate and controlled. But Caldwell was operating on autopilot. Suspect refuses commands. Suspect challenges authority. Suspect gets arrested. The script he had learned in academy training applied without any critical thinking. He grabbed her right wrist and wrenched it behind her back at an angle that made Kendra gasp in pain. The body cam captured her next words: "I am Special Agent Kendra Mitchell, FBI badge number 47832. You are assaulting a federal officer. Every second of this is being recorded."
Caldwell's hands were shaking as he applied the handcuffs. Too tight. The body cam shows metal digging into her wrists. "You have the right to remain silent." As he recited Miranda rights, Kendra kept her voice steady for the recording. "I am asserting my right to contact FBI supervisors immediately. I am asserting my right to medical evaluation for the injury you just caused to my wrist. I am asserting my right to have these handcuffs removed, as I am a federal agent being unlawfully detained." Caldwell lifted her FBI credentials from the ground and examined them. For 3 seconds, doubt crossed his face. The badge looked authentic. The credentials were professionally printed. The photo matched the woman he'd just arrested. But admitting a mistake at this point meant admitting he'd assaulted a federal agent. So instead of correcting course, he doubled down. "I'll verify these at the station. Get in the car." The cell phone video captured the moment a second patrol car arrived. Officer Sarah Martinez stepped out, a 12-year veteran who had been called as backup. She approached, assessed the scene, and immediately recognized catastrophic error. Her voice carried urgency and barely concealed panic. "Caldwell, what are you doing?" Subject was loitering, refused ID, resisted detention. Martinez walked to where the FBI credentials lay and picked them up. Her face went pale. "These are real. She's FBI. Why didn't you verify before detaining her?" "She said they were fake." "Did you call it in? Did you check with dispatch? Did you contact FBI Atlanta?" Caldwell had no answer. Martinez turned to Kendra, her voice apologetic and professional. "Ma'am, I'm removing the handcuffs immediately. This was a mistake." "Not a mistake." Kendra's voice was cold, controlled, devastating. "A mistake is writing down the wrong address. This was racial profiling that destroyed a federal investigation. I told him I was FBI. I showed credentials. He called them fake. He physically assaulted me. He compromised 3 weeks of surveillance targeting a human trafficking operation. This wasn't error. This was incompetence enabled by bias." The handcuffs came off. Kendra rubbed her wrists, red marks already forming. Martinez retrieved Kendra's phone and credentials, handing them over with visible regret. Another vehicle arrived, a black SUV with government plates. 2 FBI supervisors stepped out, faces grim. They'd been monitoring the operation remotely and responding to Kendra's emergency signal, a coded text she'd managed to send before Caldwell grabbed her. Special Agent Reed, Kendra's supervisor, approached Caldwell with controlled fury. His voice was measured, but carrying weight that made the rookie shrink. "Officer, I'm Special Agent Reed, FBI Atlanta Field Office. You just interfered with an active federal investigation. You assaulted one of my agents. You destroyed operational security that took 3 months to establish. And you did it all while being recorded from multiple angles. Do you understand the severity of what just occurred?" Caldwell's voice was barely audible. I thought she was lying. You thought an FBI agent presenting federal credentials was lying." Reed pulled out his phone. "I'm documenting this scene. Every detail, every witness, every violation. Your department will be receiving formal notification within the hour. Your chief will be contacted by my SAC, and you should contact a lawyer. Be honest. Was this racism or ego? I want your take in the comments."
Within 2 hours, the FBI's Atlanta field office had submitted a formal incident report to the Willow Creek Police Department, the Georgia Peace Officer Standards and Training Council, and the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. The report was comprehensive and damning. Officer Ryan Caldwell initiated contact with Special Agent Kendra Mitchell without probable cause, based solely on her race and presence in an affluent neighborhood, despite clear identification as FBI, despite presentation of federal credentials, despite multiple warnings about federal operation interference. Officer Caldwell proceeded with unlawful detention and physical assault. The incident resulted in complete compromise of a 3-month human trafficking investigation, potential loss of prosecution opportunity, and civil rights violations documented on multiple video sources. By Wednesday morning, the Bodycam footage had been leaked to local news. By noon, it was national. By evening, it was international. The hashtag #LoiteringWhileBlack trended within 24 hours. Social media erupted with commentary, outrage, and countless stories from black professionals who'd experienced similar profiling. The comparison clips were devastating. Black doctors in scrubs questioned outside hospitals. Black professors stopped on their own university campuses. Black executives detained outside their own office buildings. CNN legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin provided commentary that captured the scope. This isn't just about one bad stop. This is about a rookie officer so conditioned to see black people as suspicious that he couldn't recognize federal credentials 2 feet from his face. And it's about a system that put him on solo patrol after 4 months despite training evaluations noting poor judgment. Thursday afternoon, FBI Director Christopher Wray made a rare public statement. "The FBI takes interference with our investigations extremely seriously. When that interference is compounded by apparent racial bias and assault on one of our agents, it becomes a matter of both operational security and civil rights. We have full confidence in Special Agent Mitchell's professionalism and are supporting her completely." Officer Caldwell was placed on immediate administrative leave. His Bodycam footage was reviewed by Internal Affairs. His training records were subpoenaed. His academy evaluations were examined. And every single review reached the same conclusion. He should never have been cleared for solo patrol. The Willow Creek police chief held a press conference Friday morning. His statement was defensive and tone-deaf. Officer Caldwell was responding to a resident complaint about suspicious activity. He followed department protocols for investigating potential trespassing. While we regret the misunderstanding, the officer acted within his training. That statement lasted 6 hours before public backlash forced a retraction and apology. Because the body cam showed clearly Caldwell hadn't followed any protocol. He'd made assumptions, ignored evidence, rejected credentials, and escalated through ego rather than assessment. Should rookies even patrol alone? Let me know.
Monday morning, exactly 6 days after the incident, Special Agent Kendra Mitchell filed a federal civil rights lawsuit in the Northern District of Georgia. The complaint was 89 pages, meticulously documented, and sought $12 million in damages. Named defendants: Officer Ryan Caldwell, individual capacity; Police Chief Michael Warren, supervisory liability; Training Coordinator Lieutenant James Foster, inadequate training; and the City of Willow Creek, municipal liability. The legal claims were comprehensive: violation of Fourth Amendment rights, unlawful detention and seizure, violation of 14th Amendment rights, equal protection, racial discrimination, assault and battery, false arrest and imprisonment, interference with federal investigation under 18 U.S.C. Section 111, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligent training and supervision, municipal liability under Monell for deliberate indifference. But it was the evidence section that made the case unbeatable. Bodycam footage showing the entire encounter, cell phone video from independent witness, FBI incident reports documenting operational damage, medical documentation of wrist injuries, expert testimony on racial profiling patterns, Caldwell's training records showing inadequate preparation, and most damaging, evidence of prior complaints about racial profiling in Willow Creek that the department had dismissed.
The city's attorneys reviewed the evidence and immediately recognized they had no defense. Caldwell's own body cam proved every element of the claims. The FBI's documentation was federal record. The witness video corroborated everything. And Caldwell's statement that the credentials were fake was recorded on his own equipment. Discovery revealed even more damaging information. Over the previous 2 years, Willow Creek PD had received 17 complaints about racial profiling in traffic stops and street encounters. 15 involved black citizens in affluent areas. All 17 were dismissed with notations like insufficient evidence or officer discretion appropriate. Internal emails showed supervisors were aware of this pattern. One email from Chief Warren to his command staff: "We're getting pressure from homeowners about maintaining property values and community appearance. Officers should be proactive about addressing individuals who don't appear to belong in residential areas." That email, coded language for racial profiling, became Exhibit A in proving municipal liability. Caldwell's deposition was scheduled in January. He appeared with his attorney, clearly coached, and provided answers that contradicted his own body cam footage at nearly every turn. Why did you approach Special Agent Mitchell? Resident complaint about suspicious activity. What specifically was suspicious? She was standing on a public street for an extended period. That's not illegal. What made it suspicious? She didn't appear to be a resident. How did you determine that? Silence. Officer Caldwell, was it because she was black in a predominantly white neighborhood? No, I don't see race. But you assumed she didn't belong based on appearance? I was responding to a complaint. The complaint said, black female who doesn't belong, correct? Yes. And you agreed with that assessment without any investigation? No answer. The deposition continued for 6 hours. Every answer either contradicted evidence or revealed racial bias. When asked why he'd called FBI credentials fake, he said they looked too official, like prop badges. When asked why he hadn't verified, he said, I intended to at the station. When asked why he'd physically grabbed her after she identified as FBI, he said she was becoming agitated. The body cam showed she'd been calm throughout. Settlement negotiations began in February. The city's initial offer was $2 million plus policy reforms. Kendra's attorneys rejected it immediately. Their counter demand remained $12 million plus comprehensive reforms, including federal monitoring. Do you think $12 million was enough? Yes or no?
The lawsuit had forced discovery of documents the Willow Creek Police Department had tried to bury. What emerged was a picture of systematic racial profiling enabled by policy, protected by supervisors, and celebrated by wealthy residents who wanted certain people kept out of their neighborhood. A 2019 memo from the Willow Creek Homeowners Association to Chief Warren: "Our residents pay premium property taxes and expect premium security. We need assurance that individuals who don't reside here won't be permitted to loiter or conduct unauthorized business in our community. Translation: keep black people out unless they're working for white residents." A 2020 training document titled Community Policing in Affluent Areas included guidance that basically encouraged profiling. Officers should be attentive to individuals whose appearance or behavior suggests they may not be residents. Polite inquiry about their business in the community is appropriate. A 2021 email chain between patrol officers showed explicit racial bias. One officer wrote, "Another complaint about suspicious black guy near the tennis courts. Guess I'll go tell him to move along." Another responded, "That's the third one this week. These people don't get the hint." These documents, official police communications, proved the department had created a culture where racial profiling wasn't just tolerated, but expected. Expert witness Dr. Jennifer Martinez, a professor of criminal justice specializing in police bias, provided analysis. Officer Caldwell didn't act alone. He acted as a product of a system that trained him to see black presence in white spaces as inherently suspicious. His failure to recognize federal credentials, his immediate assumption of criminality, his escalation despite clear warnings, these weren't individual failures, these were predictable outcomes of inadequate training combined with institutional racism. The revelation that shocked even seasoned civil rights attorneys: Caldwell's academy training included only 2 hours on implicit bias. No practical scenarios, no assessment of racial assumptions, no training on recognizing professional credentials from other agencies, just a PowerPoint presentation that officers could sleep through, and academy records suggest many did. His field training officer evaluations noted, Caldwell demonstrates good law enforcement instincts, proactive about addressing suspicious activity. But the same evaluations never defined what suspicious meant, or challenged whether Caldwell's instincts were based on actual threat assessment or racial assumptions. The Willow Creek PD had failed at every level, failed to provide adequate training, failed to supervise rookies properly, failed to address pattern complaints, failed to correct biased policies, and failed to hold anyone accountable until federal intervention forced their hand.
This ain't the way customers. This ain't a shelter, buddy.
I'm just reading my Bible and I know my rights, sir.
Rights? You think you got rights with pocket change and that stinky jacket?
Officer, this is harassment and racism. Plain and simple. You're going to regret this.
Yeah, buddy, we'll see about that.
The video begins abruptly. No build-up, no explanation. Just a shaky phone recording of a black man standing quietly on a public sidewalk, Bible in his hands, and an officer already in his face. The cop's tone is sharp, hostile, dripping with contempt from the very first breath. The man, Elijah, doesn't move, doesn't raise his voice. He simply holds his worn Bible against his chest, its edges frayed from years of use. Then it happens. A sudden lunge. The officer tears the Bible from Elijah's hands, pages scattering across the concrete like wounded birds. Gasps erupt from bystanders, phones rise, everything is recorded. This single moment, this violent destruction of a sacred object didn't just spark outrage. It triggered national protests, flooded social media timelines, and ignited a $16 million federal lawsuit that would expose deliberate, malicious abuse of power. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps bring more truth to light. But what exactly led to this Bible being ripped from Elijah's hands? And what did the officer never expect hundreds of witnesses to capture?
Seattle, Washington, Pike Street, 3 blocks from Pike Place Market, 2:30 p.m. on a Thursday in October. Temperature 54 degrees, overcast sky, steady foot traffic. Storefronts lined both sides. Coffee shops, bookstores, souvenir stands. The kind of urban sidewalk where dozens of people pass every minute. Elijah Thompson sat on a public bench reading his Bible. He was 52 years old, a community outreach coordinator for a local nonprofit serving homeless youth. He'd worked there for 8 years, known throughout the neighborhood as someone who listened without judgment, who offered help without conditions, who treated every person with dignity. He wasn't homeless himself. He lived in a modest apartment with his wife of 27 years. But his work brought him into daily contact with people experiencing homelessness, and over time he'd adopted practical clothing: worn jeans, a secondhand jacket with frayed cuffs, comfortable walking shoes, clothes suitable for unpredictable work. That afternoon, he'd taken his lunch break on Pike Street, as he often did. The bench provided good visibility. People who needed help knew where to find him. He'd purchased a sandwich from a nearby deli and settled in to read scripture while he ate. His Bible was a King James version he'd received as a teenager, more than 35 years old. Its black leather cover was cracked and worn smooth from countless readings. Pages were dog-eared, underlined, annotated with decades of thoughts and prayers. It wasn't just a book, it was a spiritual companion that had traveled with him through every significant moment of his adult life. Officer Craig Mitchell had been with the Seattle Police Department for 6 years. His assignment was downtown patrol, specifically Pike Street Commercial Corridor enforcement. His job was maintaining business-friendly environments by addressing behaviors merchants complained about: aggressive panhandling, public intoxication, obstruction. But Mitchell's interpretation of that mandate had generated complaints. 7 formal grievances in 6 years, all involving confrontations with people he'd assumed were homeless, all involving aggressive enforcement of minor infractions or invented violations, and all involving people of color. That afternoon, Mitchell received a call from a boutique clothing store manager. The complaint: "There's a homeless man sitting on the bench outside my shop. He's been there over an hour. Customers are uncomfortable. Can you move him along?" Mitchell responded within minutes. He approached the bench with assumptions already formed: homeless, loitering, probably panhandling, definitely a problem needing removal. The cell phone footage, recorded by a college student walking by, captured Mitchell's approach. His body language was aggressive from the start. No greeting, no question about whether assistance was needed, just immediate confrontation. Elijah looked up from his Bible as Mitchell's shadow fell across the pages. "You're scaring away customers. This ain't shelter, buddy." Elijah's response was calm, his voice carrying the patient tone of someone accustomed to de-escalating tense situations. "I'm just reading my Bible, and I know my rights, sir." Mitchell stepped closer, his voice dripping with mockery. "Rights? You think you got rights with pocket change and that stinky jacket?" The cell phone footage captured Elijah's face clearly. No anger, no aggression, just weary recognition of what was happening. Another encounter with authority that saw his appearance and made assumptions about his worth.
Elijah stood slowly, deliberately, his Bible held against his chest. He was shorter than Mitchell, slighter in build, no physical threat whatsoever, but his voice carried quiet strength. "Officer, this is harassment. This is racism. You're going to regret this." Mitchell's face flushed red. The cell phone footage captured his expression perfectly: rage at being challenged, fury at having his authority questioned. "Yeah, we'll see about that." What happened next was captured from 4 different angles: the college student's phone, a security camera from the boutique, a tourist's camera filming the street scene, and Mitchell's own body cam. Mitchell lunged forward and ripped the Bible from Elijah's hands with violent force. The sudden movement was so aggressive that Elijah stumbled backward. The Bible, held together by decades of wear and fragile binding, came apart in Mitchell's grip. Pages scattered. Loose sheets of annotated scripture drifted across the concrete sidewalk like wounded birds. The leather cover dangled from Mitchell's hand, separated from its spine. Decades of spiritual documentation, personal notes, family history documented in margins, all torn, scattered, destroyed. The gasps were audible on every recording. Bystanders froze. Someone shouted, "What are you doing?" Another voice, "That's his Bible. You can't do that." Phones rose immediately. Within seconds, a dozen people were recording. Elisha dropped to his knees, reaching for the scattered pages with shaking hands. His face showed pure anguish, not for himself, but for the sacred object that had been violated. Mitchell grabbed Elijah's shoulder and yanked him backward. "Get up! You're under arrest." "For what?" Elijah's voice broke.
Reading scripture? Resisting lawful commands, trespassing, obstructing public access. Every charge was false. The bench was public property. Elijah had committed no violation, and the only resistance came after Mitchell destroyed his Bible. But Mitchell forced Elijah's arms behind his back anyway, applying handcuffs with excessive force. "Stop resisting!" The cell phone footage showed clearly. Elijah wasn't resisting. He was crying, tears streaming down his face as he watched strangers gathering pages of his Bible from the sidewalk, trying to preserve what Mitchell had destroyed. "I'm not resisting. Please, just let me get my Bible." Mitchell shoved him toward the patrol car, Bible pages crunching under their feet. The tourist's video captured Mitchell's face in profile. He was smirking. The crowd grew. Voices rose. Someone yelled, "This is police brutality." Another, "He didn't do anything wrong." A woman in business attire stepped forward, holding her phone high. "I'm recording this. Everyone is recording this." Mitchell paused, his head swiveling to take in the crowd. Phones everywhere, cameras capturing every angle, witnesses documenting everything. And in that moment, captured clearly on multiple recordings, his smirk disappeared, replaced by realization that he'd made a catastrophic mistake. What would you have done if you witnessed this officer rip a Bible out of someone's hands on a public sidewalk?
The first video hit TikTok at 2:47 p.m., 17 minutes after Mitchell ripped the Bible from Elijah's hands. The caption? "Seattle cop destroys black man's Bible for reading on public bench. This is America." Within an hour, 50,000 views. Within 3 hours, 500,000. By evening, 2 million. The algorithm favored outrage, and this video delivered it. Clear injustice, obvious abuse of power, visceral violation of something sacred. Twitter erupted simultaneously. The hashtag #BibleRipped began trending at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time. By 6 p.m., #1 trend nationwide. By 8 p.m., 3.5 million tweets. The responses came in waves. Faith leaders of every denomination condemned the act. "Destroying someone's Bible is an assault on religious freedom," tweeted a prominent evangelical pastor with 2 million followers. A Catholic bishop called it unconscionable desecration. Muslim, Jewish, Hindu, and Buddhist leaders issued solidarity statements, recognizing destruction of sacred text as an assault transcending denomination. Civil rights organizations mobilized immediately. The ACLU Washington chapter issued a statement within 3 hours. "This incident represents multiple constitutional violations. First Amendment, religious freedom. Fourth Amendment, unlawful seizure. 14th Amendment, equal protection. We are investigating potential legal action." The Seattle Police Department's initial response was tone-deaf and defensive. At 5:30 p.m., their official Twitter posted, "We are aware of video circulating online. The incident is under review." The officer followed standard protocol for addressing trespassing violations. The backlash was immediate and furious. Standard protocol includes destroying religious texts? Comments flooded in by the thousands, all expressing disbelief and anger. But it was the human story, Elijah's story, that transformed outrage into movement. By Thursday evening, local news had identified Elijah and begun reporting his background. He wasn't homeless. He was a community outreach coordinator. He'd spent 8 years serving Seattle's most vulnerable populations. He was known, respected, loved in the neighborhoods where he worked. King 5 News ran a segment featuring interviews with people who knew him. A young woman, now employed and housed, described how Elijah had helped her escape sex trafficking. "He gave me his coat when I was freezing. He found me shelter. He treated me like a human being when everyone else looked through me. And this cop treated him like garbage." A pastor at Pike Street Church, where Elijah volunteered, described the Bible that had been destroyed. "That Bible was older than most people in my congregation. Elijah brought it to every Bible study. He'd show us notes his mother wrote in the margins before she passed.
That wasn't just a book. It was his family history. Photos emerged of Elijah teaching Bible study to homeless youth, leading prayer circles in shelters, handing out meals while carrying that same worn Bible. Every image reinforced the same message. This wasn't a random person harassed by police. This was a pillar of the community, targeted because an officer saw his appearance and made assumptions based on bias. By Friday morning, the story had gone national. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all running segments. The Atlantic published an essay, When Police Destroy Sacred Objects, the Elijah Thompson Case and Religious Freedom Under Color of Law. Seattle City Hall faced growing pressure. The mayor's office released a statement Friday afternoon. The incident involving Mr. Thompson is deeply troubling. We have launched a full investigation and are committed to accountability. But accountability seemed unlikely when Friday evening the Seattle Police Officers Guild released their own statement defending Mitchell. Officer Mitchell responded to a legitimate business complaint and acted within his authority to address trespassing. The use of force was minimal and appropriate. That statement, defending the destruction of a Bible and false arrest of someone committing no crime, ignited a new wave of fury. Protests were organized for Saturday. Faith leaders called for mass demonstrations. Community organizations mobilized. And then, Friday night at 11:47 p.m., attorney Benjamin Crump announced on Twitter that his firm would represent Elijah Thompson in a federal civil rights lawsuit. Crump, known for representing families of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery, brought instant credibility and national attention. His statement was unequivocal. What happened to Elijah Thompson was not just an unlawful arrest. It was a spiritual violation. It was a racist assault disguised as law enforcement, and it will not be unanswered. We are filing a federal lawsuit seeking accountability and justice. The lawsuit would be filed Monday morning. The amount? $16 million. Do you think the officer ripped the Bible out of anger or out of racial bias?
Saturday morning, as thousands gathered for protests outside Seattle Police Headquarters, new footage emerged that transformed the narrative from outrageous to damning. A security camera from a building across the street had captured the entire encounter from an elevated angle. The footage, obtained by local news through public records request, showed details the street-level cell phone videos had missed. It showed Mitchell approaching while Elijah was clearly reading, not panhandling, not harassing anyone, just sitting peacefully. It showed Mitchell's aggressive posture from the first moment. No attempt at de-escalation, no professional inquiry, just immediate confrontation. And it showed something that made every viewer's stomach turn. After ripping the Bible from Elijah's hands, after pages had scattered across the sidewalk, Mitchell stepped deliberately on several pages while forcing Elijah toward the patrol car. Not accidentally, deliberately. His boot came down on scripture with obvious intention. The footage went viral within hours. The symbolism was inescapable. An officer literally trampling sacred text while arresting someone for reading it. But there was more. A bystander filming from inside the boutique captured audio the outdoor recordings had missed. As Mitchell handcuffed Elijah, he'd muttered, barely audible but caught clearly, "Should have stayed in your own neighborhood." The racial animus was explicit, undeniable. Mitchell hadn't just seen someone he assumed was homeless. He'd seen a black man in a commercial area he believed black people didn't belong in. Then came the whistleblower. Saturday afternoon, a Seattle PD patrol officer named Marcus Rivera contacted Benjamin Crump's office. Rivera had worked with Mitchell for 3 years, and he had stories. Rivera provided documentation, incident reports, internal communications, witness statements, showing Mitchell had a pattern of targeting black people in commercial districts. 7 documented incidents over 4 years. Black woman waiting for bus, accused of loitering with intent to solicit. No solicitation occurred. Charges dropped. Black teenager with skateboard, accused of intimidating customers. Video showed he was standing quietly. Charges dropped.
Black man in business suit, accused of suspicious activity. He was a hotel guest checking his phone. Complaint filed, dismissed. Black elderly woman with shopping bags, accused of obstruction. She was waiting for her daughter. Charges dropped. Black college student studying on bench, accused of trespassing. Public property. Charges dropped. Black delivery driver accused of casing vehicles. He was checking addresses. Charges dropped. And finally, Elijah Thompson, reading Bible on public bench, Bible destroyed, arrested for resisting. The pattern was unmistakable. Mitchell specifically targeted black people in commercial areas, inventing violations to justify removals, escalating when challenged. Every case resulted in dropped charges because no actual violations occurred.
Rivera's whistleblower statement included internal communications showing supervisors were aware of complaints but took no action beyond perfunctory retraining notes. An email from March 2021 showed a sergeant responding to a complaint about Mitchell. Mitchell's enforcement approach is aggressive but effective at maintaining business district appearance standards. Continue monitoring, but no discipline warranted. Translation: we know he's profiling, but businesses like it, so we're allowing it. The Seattle Times obtained these documents Sunday morning and ran a front-page investigation. Officer who destroyed Bible had pattern of targeting black people. Supervisors knew and did nothing. By Sunday afternoon, the scope of liability had expanded exponentially. This wasn't just about one incident. This was institutional tolerance of discriminatory enforcement. This was supervisory failure. This was systemic racism enabled by policy. Constitutional law professor Amanda Chen was interviewed by CNN Sunday evening. She broke down the violations. First Amendment: destroying religious text violates free exercise of religion. Fourth Amendment: seizing and destroying personal property without cause violates protection against unreasonable seizure. 14th Amendment: targeting based on race violates equal protection. Beyond that, malicious destruction of property, false arrest, intentional infliction of emotional distress. This is textbook constitutional violation across multiple amendments. Faith leaders held a prayer vigil Sunday evening at the bench where Elijah had been arrested. Thousands attended. Religious leaders from 20 faith traditions spoke. Jewish rabbis stood beside Muslim imams, beside Christian pastors, beside Buddhist monks. The message was unified. Destroying sacred text is an assault on all faiths. Elijah attended the vigil. He was presented with scattered pages witnesses had collected and preserved. A professional book conservator had volunteered to attempt restoration. Elijah wept as he held the fragments. His statement was brief and powerful. That Bible traveled with me for 35 years. It held my mother's handwritten notes. It carried my family's prayers across decades. Officer Mitchell didn't just tear pages. He tore my history, my faith, my connection to everyone I've loved and lost. No amount of money will restore what was destroyed, but accountability, that can prevent the next person from experiencing what I experienced. What shocked you the most? The ripping of the Bible or the smirk cut on video afterward? Monday morning at 9 a.m., Benjamin Crump stood at a podium outside the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Washington. Behind him stood Elijah Thompson, his wife Sarah, their pastor, representatives from the ACLU, the NAACP, the National Council of Churches, and the Interfaith Alliance. Crump held up the federal lawsuit, 73 pages of claims, evidence, and demands for accountability. Today, we are filing a $16 million federal civil rights lawsuit against Officer Craig Mitchell, his supervisors who enabled his behavior, and the city of Seattle. This lawsuit addresses not just the destruction of Elijah Thompson's Bible, but a pattern of racist enforcement that has terrorized black citizens in this city for years. The lawsuit named 6 defendants: Officer Craig Mitchell, Sergeant David Walsh, Lieutenant Rebecca Mills,
Captain Thomas Rivera, Police Chief Adrian Diaz, and the City of Seattle. The legal claims were comprehensive: violation of First Amendment rights, Fourth Amendment rights, 14th Amendment rights, malicious destruction of property, false arrest, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligent supervision, and municipal liability for deliberate indifference to constitutional violations.
But the evidence section was devastating. Video from 7 angles, audio recordings, witness statements from 43 people, Mitchell's complete disciplinary history, internal department communications showing awareness of his pattern, expert testimony on religious freedom and constitutional law, psychological evaluation of Elijah documenting trauma. The damages demand broke down specifically: $2 million for destruction of irreplaceable religious property with sentimental value, $3 million for emotional distress and psychological harm, $5 million for violation of civil rights under color of law, $6 million in punitive damages to punish deliberate misconduct. The Seattle City Attorney's Office issued a response Monday afternoon. "We take these allegations seriously and are reviewing the complaint. However, we believe the claims mischaracterize the incident. We intend to defend vigorously." That defense would collapse within weeks. Discovery requests flooded the department. Every email about Mitchell, every complaint, every training record, every internal memo discussing enforcement strategies in commercial districts. What emerged painted a picture of deliberate policy. In 2019, the Seattle Downtown Association, a business advocacy group, had lobbied the mayor and police chief to increase quality of life enforcement in commercial areas. Translated, removing homeless people and others deemed bad for business. Internal police memos showed commanders directing officers to be proactive about appearance management and maintaining business-friendly environments. Officers were told to move along people who don't appear to be shopping or conducting legitimate business. One training document in 2020 included photos of behaviors to address, and every single photo showed a person of color sitting, standing, or existing in public space. Mitchell had been following policy. The problem was, the policy itself was discriminatory. Depositions began in January. Mitchell's deposition was a disaster for the defense. Under oath, he couldn't explain why he'd assumed Elijah was homeless. He couldn't identify what specific law Elijah violated. He couldn't justify destroying the Bible except to say, "I needed to move him along." When asked why he'd stepped on Bible pages, Mitchell claimed accident, but video showed deliberate movement. When asked about the "stay in your own neighborhood" comment, Mitchell denied it, but audio proved he had. When asked about his pattern targeting black people, Mitchell claimed he didn't see race. But his records showed 86% of his quality of life stops involved people of color in a city that was 67% white.
The supervisor's depositions were equally damaging. Sergeant Walsh admitted awareness of complaints, but viewed Mitchell as effective at maintaining order. Lieutenant Mills acknowledged she'd seen the pattern, but considered it enforcement discretion. The city's defense attorney tried one last strategy: qualified immunity. They argued Mitchell's actions, even if wrong, didn't violate clearly established constitutional rights. Federal Judge Patricia Gonzalez rejected that argument in a scathing written opinion. The right to read religious text in public without having that text destroyed by police is so obviously established that no reasonable officer could have believed otherwise. Destroying a Bible and arresting someone for reading it violates clearly established First, Fourth, and 14th Amendment protections. Qualified immunity does not apply. With qualified immunity stripped, the city faced a trial it couldn't win. The evidence was overwhelming, the video undeniable, the pattern documented, and the jury pool in Seattle would be sympathetic to Elijah. Settlement negotiations began in February. Should destroying someone's Bible be treated the same as assault? Why or why not? The settlement was announced in March, 5 months after Officer Mitchell ripped Elijah Thompson's Bible from his hands.
The city of Seattle agreed to pay $16 million, one of the largest civil rights settlements in the city's history and the largest ever for religious freedom violations. But the money was only part. The settlement included comprehensive reforms: immediate termination of Officer Craig Mitchell with permanent revocation of law enforcement certification, demotion of Sergeant David Walsh for supervisory failure, suspension without pay for Lieutenant Rebecca Mills, mandatory retirement of Captain Thomas Rivera, 3-year federal consent decree requiring independent monitoring of downtown enforcement, complete ban on quality-of-life enforcement policies targeting people based on appearance, mandatory implicit bias training for all officers with annual recertification, creation of independent oversight board with authority to investigate and recommend discipline, implementation of religious freedom protections prohibiting interference with religious activity in public spaces, quarterly public reporting of all stops by race, location, and outcome, $2 million allocated to community organizations serving homeless populations, and public apology from police chief and mayor acknowledging systemic discrimination. The press conference was held at Pike Street Church. Elijah stood at the podium, hands resting on a newly bound Bible, the restored original, carefully reconstructed by a conservator who'd volunteered hundreds of hours. The restoration had been painstaking, pages repaired with archival techniques, tears mended with Japanese tissue paper, annotations preserved, his mother's handwriting, faded but legible, carefully stabilized, the binding rebuilt using traditional bookbinding methods.
It wasn't perfect. The scars remained, but it was whole again. Elijah's statement was measured and powerful. 5 months ago, I was sitting on a public bench reading scripture when Officer Mitchell decided I didn't belong. He saw my worn jacket and assumed I was homeless. He saw my skin color and assumed I was a problem. He saw my Bible and decided it was disposable. What he destroyed wasn't just pages and binding. It was my connection to my mother, who wrote notes in these margins before she passed. It was my family's spiritual history. It was my faith made tangible. He paused, holding up the restored Bible. This book teaches forgiveness, and I forgive Officer Mitchell. But forgiveness doesn't mean consequences shouldn't follow. It means I release my anger while insisting on justice. Mitchell lost his career. That's appropriate. The city paid $16 million. That's accountability. The reforms will protect others. That's progress. But the real change comes when we as a society decide that everyone, regardless of how they look, where they sit, or what they read, deserves dignity and constitutional protection. Faith leaders from across the country had traveled to Seattle. They stood united behind Elijah, representing the interfaith coalition that had supported him throughout. Reverend William Barber, a prominent civil rights leader, spoke. What happened to Elijah Thompson is what happens when we allow appearance to determine humanity, when we permit business interests to override constitutional rights, when we tolerate racist enforcement because it keeps certain people out of certain spaces. This settlement is a victory. But the fight for equal treatment in public spaces continues in every city in America. The settlement funds were distributed with deliberate purpose. Elijah received $14 million personally. He immediately donated $2 million to homeless services organizations in Seattle. Another $1 million went to establish a legal defense fund for people experiencing homelessness. The remaining $11 million was placed in trust to support his family and fund his ongoing advocacy work. Officer Craig Mitchell released no statement. He disappeared from public view after termination. His law enforcement career ended at age 32. The supervisors who'd enabled him faced professional consequences but remained employed. The culture that had protected Mitchell for 6 years was finally forced to change. Not through internal accountability, but through external pressure and a $16 million price tag. The restored Bible became a symbol.
Elijah donated it to the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C., where it's now displayed as testimony to both violation and resilience. Visitors read the description: Bible belonging to Elijah Thompson, destroyed by Seattle police officer during unlawful arrest, October 2022. Restored through community effort. Symbol of faith preserved, despite assault on dignity.
The case triggered nationwide conversation about religious freedom in public spaces, the criminalization of homelessness, and racial profiling in commercial areas. The ACLU cited it in briefs across the country. Religious liberty organizations used it as precedent. Civil rights advocates pointed to it as evidence of systemic discrimination requiring federal intervention. Seattle City Council, under intense public pressure, adopted comprehensive de-escalation policies. Annual reports on police harassment became mandatory. Independent oversight was finally empowered with real authority. The reforms that should have existed before Elijah's Bible was destroyed were finally implemented after. But for Elijah, the victory was bittersweet. The money provided security, the reforms prevented future harm, the recognition validated his experience. But his Bible, held together now by restoration rather than natural wear, would never be the same. The pages his mother touched were forever marked by violence. The book that had traveled with him through joy and grief now carried the additional weight of trauma. He continues his outreach work. He still sits on Pike Street benches, though now he carries the restored Bible and a protective case. He still reads Scripture to anyone who needs comfort. He still offers dignity to those society overlooks, but he does it with the knowledge that even faith, even sacred text, even constitutional rights offer no protection when an officer decides your presence doesn't belong. The $16 million said that violation has a price. The reforms said the system must change. But the restored Bible, beautiful and scarred, says some damages can't be fully repaired, only witnessed and remembered. What reforms do you think every police department should implement to prevent abuses like this? Before we end this story, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps bring more truth to light.
Step away from the vehicle. Where'd you steal this Maserati?
I didn't steal anything. I own this car.
Yeah, well, you don't look like it. Let me see some ID.
Congratulations, that's unlawful detention. Hope you like paperwork, because this is going to cost your department a lot.
All right, buddy, hands behind your back.
You really want to add false arrest to the list?
The body cam jolts as the officer storms toward the gas pump. No context, no warning, no justification. Just an officer charging straight at a black man refueling a silver Maserati, as if he's already guilty of something. Soft daylight hits the frame, but nothing about this moment feels soft. What happened during this ordinary stop at a gas station, all because one officer decided a black man couldn't possibly own a high-end car, would ignite a nationwide firestorm. His voice barking with certainty. "Step away from the vehicle! Where did you steal this car?" His voice again, louder. "Show me your hands! Don't get back in that car!" And then the moment that changed everything. The calm man turns, pulls out his legal credentials, and the body cam records every humiliating second of the officer's baseless accusation. That single act of profiling, captured in real time, did more than expose one bad cop. It triggered a civil rights lawsuit, ended a law enforcement career, and cost the department $5 million. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps bring more truth to light. But why did the officer double down? And what did he never expect the body cam to reveal about the man he accused of stealing his own car?
Phoenix, Arizona, a Shell station on Camelback Road in Scottsdale's affluent corridor. 11:20 a.m. on a Saturday in July. Temperature 107 degrees. The kind of desert heat where even brief stops require air conditioning recovery. This neighborhood was luxury car territory. Maseratis, Teslas, BMWs, common here, unremarkable. Median household income exceeded $120,000. Expensive vehicles weren't anomalies, they were expected. Jared Williams had stopped for gas on his way home from a morning workout. He was 41 years old, senior partner at Morrison & Klein, one of Phoenix's most prestigious corporate law firms. His specialty was civil rights litigation and constitutional law. He'd graduated from Yale Law School, clerked for a federal appellate judge, and built a reputation as one of the Southwest's most formidable trial attorneys. He drove a 2022 Maserati Quattroporte, silver with black leather interior, purchased new for $98,000. Registration current, insurance active, everything legal, proper, documented. He'd pulled up to Pump 7, swiped his Platinum American Express, selected premium fuel, and begun filling his tank. Standard Saturday routine, nothing unusual. Nothing that should have attracted attention. But Officer Derek Hayes had been watching. Hayes was 29 years old, 4 years with the Scottsdale Police Department. His personnel file contained notations that should have triggered concern. Demonstrates tendency toward assumption-based policing. Multiple complaints regarding pretextual stops. Recommend additional training on implicit bias. Those recommendations had been filed and forgotten, the complaints dismissed, and Hayes continued patrolling with assumptions that were about to destroy his career. He'd spotted Jared from across the parking lot, a black man, mid-40s, expensive car, and in Hayes' mind, shaped by bias he'd never acknowledged and enabled by a department that had never corrected him, those factors combined into immediate suspicion. The body cam shows Hayes' approach. He exited his patrol car with aggressive body language. Shoulders forward, hand near his weapon, stride purposeful and confrontational. No casual observation, no routine check. Immediate assumption of criminality. Jared was standing beside his Maserati, fuel nozzle in hand, watching the digital display when Hayes' voice cut through the morning air. "Step away from the vehicle. Where did you steal this car?" The body cam captured Jared's reaction perfectly. Not panic, not guilt, just immediate recognition of what was happening, followed by controlled anger. He turned slowly, deliberately, his voice carrying professional authority. "Excuse me, I own this car. I am Jared Williams. This is my registered vehicle." Hayes stepped closer, his hand still hovering near his service weapon. "Sure you are. Show me your hands. You're not getting back in that car." The body cam shows Jared's jaw tighten. His hands were already visible, one holding the fuel nozzle, one at his side. There was no threat. No furtive movement, no justification for the aggressive commands. "Officer, I'm refueling my vehicle at a gas station. I have done nothing to justify this confrontation. I'm a licensed attorney, and I'm advising you right now that you're engaging in racial profiling without probable cause." Hayes' response revealed everything. "I don't care who you say you are. Step away from the vehicle. Now." Jared set the fuel nozzle back carefully. He reached into his pocket, moving slowly, narrating his actions, and pulled out a leather credential holder. He flipped it open, displaying a gold badge with Federal Bar Association engraved across the top. The body cam captured the badge clearly. It also captured Hayes' face. No recognition, no reconsideration, no acknowledgement that he might be wrong. Jared's list dropped, carrying the weight of someone who just watched their constitutional rights trampled. "That's it, white man. False detention, civil rights violation. You just assaulted a federal lawyer. You will hear from me soon." What would you do if an officer approached you like this with zero evidence? Officer Hayes stared at the badge for 3 seconds. The body cam shows his eyes moving from badge to face and back, processing. Calculating, realizing perhaps that this stop wasn't going as assumed. But instead of de-escalating,
Instead of verifying ownership through registration or his patrol car's computer, instead of acknowledging his mistake, Hayes doubled down. "I need to verify this vehicle isn't stolen. You're going to wait here while I run the plates." Jared's response was immediate and legally precise. "Officer, you've detained me without reasonable suspicion or probable cause. I have provided identification demonstrating I'm a licensed attorney. My vehicle registration is in the glove compartment. The VIN is visible through the windshield. You can verify ownership in 30 seconds. Instead, you're continuing this detention based on nothing but the color of my skin and your assumption that a black man can't own a luxury vehicle." Hayes turned toward his patrol car, keying his radio. "Dispatch, I need a 1028 and 1029 on Arizona plate." Before he could finish, Jared interrupted. "I'm not consenting to any search or extended detention. You have no legal basis to continue this stop. I'm documenting this encounter, and I will be filing a formal complaint and federal lawsuit."
Hayes spun back. "Sir, if you don't comply, I will arrest you for obstruction." "Obstruction of what?" "I've answered your questions. I've provided identification. I've explained vehicle ownership. What am I obstructing?" The body cam captured the moment Hayes realized he'd backed himself into a corner. He'd initiated contact based on assumption. He'd accused Jared of theft without evidence. He'd ignored professional credentials. And now he was threatening arrest to justify actions he couldn't defend. A woman at the adjacent pump had been recording on her cell phone since Hayes' initial approach. Her footage, later obtained by Jared's attorneys, captured what the body cam missed. Several other customers had stopped to watch. Some were recording. Others were whispering, clearly uncomfortable. One elderly white man approached cautiously. "Officer, I've been here the whole time. This gentleman has been calmly putting gas in his car. He hasn't done anything wrong." Hayes turned sharply. "Sir, step back. This is police business." "But you're accusing him of stealing his own car. I saw him pay with a credit card. Don't you think—" "Sir, final warning. Step back or I'll cite you for interference." The man retreated, shaking his head, but kept his phone out, recording. Hayes returned to Jared. "Stay right here. Don't move." He walked to his patrol car and spent 4 minutes running Jared's plate. The body cam audio picked up dispatch response clearly. 1029 shows 2022 Maserati Quattroporte, silver, registered owner Jared Alexander Williams, address matches license, no wants, no warrants, registration current. Hayes sat in his vehicle for another minute after receiving that confirmation. The body cam footage shows him gripping his steering wheel, jaw clenched, clearly frustrated that his assumption had been proven wrong. But he still didn't release Jared. Instead, he exited and approached again. His demeanor shifted from aggressive to defensive. "Sir, I'm going to need to see your driver's license and registration." Jared's voice carried controlled fury. "Officer, you just received confirmation that this vehicle is registered to me. You've already seen my professional identification. You have zero legal justification to continue this detention. Release me immediately, or I will add unlawful detention to the civil rights complaint I'm filing. I'm conducting a routine traffic stop. You pulled into a gas station and accused me of theft without probable cause. This isn't a traffic stop. This is racial profiling, and every second you continue this detention strengthens my case." Hayes' hand moved to his handcuffs. "Sir, place your hands behind your back. You're being detained for failure to comply." The body cam captured Jared's expression. Not fear, but disbelief. "I've complied with every lawful order. What I haven't done is accept your unconstitutional harassment. You cannot arrest someone for refusing to accept rights violations." Hayes reached for Jared's arm. That physical contact, captured on body cam, cell phone video, and the gas station security system, was the moment harassment became assault and battery. The moment a civil rights complaint became a federal lawsuit. The moment Officer Derek Hayes' career effectively ended. Why do you think some officers escalate, even when the truth is right in front of them?
Jared pulled his arm away from Hayes's grasp, not violently, just a natural reaction to unwanted contact. But Hayes interpreted that movement as resistance. "Stop resisting!" "I'm not resisting. I'm refusing to consent to unlawful arrest. There's a difference." Hayes grabbed Jared's wrist with both hands and attempted to force his arm behind his back. The body cam shook violently as the two men struggled. Jared trying to maintain his freedom, Hayes trying to impose control he had no legal authority to exercise. The woman recording shouted from across the lot, "He's not resisting! Leave him alone!" Another voice joined her. "This is police brutality! Someone call 911!" Hayes keyed his radio while still attempting to restrain Jared. "Code 3, I need immediate backup at Shell Station on Camelback. Subject is resisting arrest. Possible 1010. Dispatch responded immediately. "Copy, units responding. Confirm nature of original stop." Hayes didn't answer because he couldn't. There was no original stop, no traffic violation, no reasonable suspicion, just a black man at a gas pump and an officer's assumptions. Jared's voice remained remarkably controlled despite the physical altercation. "Officer Hayes, I have your name from your badge. You are violating Arizona Revised Statute 132508 regarding unlawful imprisonment. You are violating 42 U.S.C. Section 1983 regarding deprivation of rights under color of law. You're creating a record of constitutional violations that will cost your department millions of dollars." The recitation of statute numbers gave Hayes pause. His grip loosened slightly. Someone citing specific legal codes while being detained suggested they weren't bluffing about legal knowledge. 2 additional patrol cars arrived within 90 seconds. 4 more officers stepped out, taking in the scene. Hayes struggling with a well-dressed black man at a gas station, multiple civilians recording, no obvious criminal activity. Sergeant Linda Morrison, a 16-year veteran, approached cautiously. "Hayes, what's the situation?" "Subject was operating a vehicle I suspected was stolen. He's refused to comply and became physically resistant." Morrison looked at Jared, noting his business casual attire, his calm demeanor despite being restrained, and something else. A leather badge holder that had fallen to the ground during the struggle. She picked it up, examined it, and her expression changed immediately. "Sir, are you an attorney?" Jared's response was directed at Morrison, but intended for the body cams now recording from multiple angles. "I'm Jared Williams, senior partner at Morrison & Klein, specializing in federal civil rights litigation. I stopped to purchase fuel. Officer Hayes approached with zero probable cause, accused me of vehicle theft, despite this being my registered vehicle, ignored my professional credentials, unlawfully detained me, and just committed assault and battery by placing hands on me without legal justification. I have witnesses, video evidence from multiple angles, and will be filing a federal lawsuit seeking damages for constitutional violations."
Morrison's face went pale. She turned to Hayes. "Did you run the plates?" "Yes, they came back clean, registered to him." "Then why is he still detained?" Hayes had no answer. Morrison's voice dropped, tight with controlled anger. "Release him! Now!" Hayes removed his hands. Jared stepped back, straightening his shirt, his eyes moving methodically across the scene, counting officers, noting badge numbers, observing witnesses still recording. Morrison addressed him directly. "Mr. Williams, I apologize for this encounter. You're free to go." Jared's response was calm, measured, devastating. "Sergeant, I don't need information on how to file the complaint. I know the process intimately. I've litigated dozens of civil rights cases against law enforcement agencies. What I need is for you to preserve all body cam footage, dispatch recordings, and security video from this location, because I will be filing a federal lawsuit under Section 1983, and all of that material will be evidence in discovery. You'll be receiving a preservation notice from my office by Monday." Morrison nodded slowly. "Understood, sir." Jared returned to his Maserati, completed fueling, paid for his gas,
and drove away, but not before every officer on scene had watched him enter his vehicle with keys, start the engine without any signs of theft, and drive off legally. The cell phone videos began uploading to social media before Jared had even left the parking lot. Within 2 hours, hashtag Maserati Lawyer was trending. By evening, the footage had 4 million views. By Monday morning, it was national news. When do you personally think the officer realized he messed up? Jared Williams walked into his law firm Monday morning carrying a file that would cost Scottsdale PD $5 million. His partners were waiting. They'd seen the viral videos and knew exactly what was coming. The federal lawsuit filed in the District of Arizona was comprehensive and designed not just to compensate Jared, but expose systemic problems. Named defendants: Officer Derek Hayes, Sergeant Linda Morrison, Police Chief Thomas Reynolds, and the City of Scottsdale. Claims included Fourth Amendment violations, 14th Amendment equal protection violations, assault and battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and municipal liability under Monell for failure to train.
But it was the evidence that made city attorneys realize they faced catastrophic exposure. Jared's firm had assembled video from 7 angles: Hayes' body cam, 4 cell phone videos, gas station security, and traffic cameras showing Hayes' initial observation from across the lot. When played in sequence, the footage told an undeniable story. Hayes had spotted Jared, made immediate assumptions, and approached with predetermined accusation. He'd ignored credentials, dismissed explanations, and escalated despite confirmation his suspicions were baseless. The lawsuit revealed something more damaging. Jared's team filed public records requests for Hayes' complete personnel file, all complaints, and departmental communications regarding luxury vehicle enforcement. The personnel file showed a pattern. Over 4 years, Hayes had initiated 127 traffic stops. 89 involved drivers of color, 70%. 34 involved luxury vehicles, 27%. 23 involved both minority drivers and luxury vehicles, 18%. The disparity was statistically significant and legally indefensible. Hayes was stopping minority drivers at rates wildly disproportionate to Scottsdale's demographics. The complaint history was equally damning. Complaint number 1, 2019. Hispanic male driving BMW stopped and questioned about ownership. Alleged racial profiling. Internal Affairs, Officer's inquiry within discretionary authority. Dismissed. Complaint number 2, 2020. Black female driving Mercedes asked repeatedly where she worked and how she afforded it. Alleged harassment. Internal Affairs, questions were investigatory, no policy violation. Dismissed. Complaint number 3, 2021. Black male driving Porsche detained 20 minutes while officer verified ownership despite registration being immediately available. Alleged racial profiling. Internal Affairs, duration was reasonable. Dismissed. 3 complaints, 3 minority drivers, 3 luxury vehicles, 3 dismissals. The pattern was documented but never addressed. Then, Jared's attorneys obtained internal department emails exposing systemic encouragement of exactly Hayes' behavior. An email chain from 2020 between supervisors discussed aggressive enforcement in high-end commercial areas, with specific mention of targeting vehicle theft rings by scrutinizing luxury vehicle operators. The thread included a message from a training sergeant. Officers should be particularly attentive to younger drivers and minority drivers operating high-value vehicles, as these may indicate theft or criminal financing.
That email, official department communication, essentially instructed officers to profile minority drivers in luxury cars. It created an environment where Hayes' assumptions weren't aberrations, but applications of informal policy. When media obtained those emails through Jared's records requests, public response was immediate and furious.
Civil rights organizations condemned the policy. Community leaders demanded resignations. Protests erupted outside headquarters. The Scottsdale City Council held an emergency session. The mayor, facing intense pressure, promised thorough investigation and accountability. Officer Hayes' deposition, conducted 4 months later, became viral when excerpts were released. Jared's attorney systematically dismantled every justification Hayes offered. Officer Hayes, what specific articulable facts led you to suspect Mr. Williams had stolen the vehicle? The vehicle was expensive, and he didn't seem like someone who would own it. What do you mean he didn't seem like someone who would own it? I mean, it was a judgment call based on my experience. Based on his race? No, based on multiple factors. What factors other than his race? Hayes had no answer. Officer Hayes, you've stopped 23 drivers of color operating luxury vehicles. In how many did you discover the vehicle was actually stolen? I'd have to check records. I can tell you, 0. Your experience has a 0% accuracy rate for the assumption you made about Mr. Williams. The transcripts were devastating. Hayes contradicted himself repeatedly, admitted he never checked registration before approaching, and acknowledged he'd assumed theft based solely on seeing a black man driving it. But the most damaging revelation came when Jared's attorneys obtained Hayes's text messages with other officers. In a group chat from 3 weeks before the incident, Hayes had written, "Another day, another minority in a car they can't afford. Time to do some investigating." A colleague responded, "Gotta love Scottsdale, where the criminals drive better cars than we do." Hayes replied with a laughing emoji. Those text messages, showing conscious bias, premeditation, and departmental culture enabling discrimination, made the case impossible to defend. Do you think the department knew exactly what it was encouraging officers to do?
The city of Scottsdale's defense collapsed within 6 months. Their attorneys initially argued qualified immunity, that Hayes' actions, even if wrong, didn't violate clearly established rights. But federal case law on pretextual stops based on racial profiling was well established. The text messages destroyed any remaining defense. They proved Hayes' stop wasn't a good faith mistake, but conscious discrimination. They showed departmental culture encouraging such behavior. They demonstrated supervisors knew about these attitudes and did nothing. Settlement negotiations began. The city's initial offer was $500,000 plus policy reforms. Gerard rejected it within hours. His counterdemand was $8 million plus comprehensive reforms, including federal monitoring, termination of Officer Hayes and supervisors who dismissed complaints, and creation of independent civilian oversight. Negotiations stretched over 2 months. During that time, 3 more lawsuits were filed by other minority drivers stopped by Hayes. Potential liability was growing exponentially. Political pressure became unsustainable. The city attorney acknowledged they had no path to victory at trial. The final settlement represented one of the largest racial profiling settlements in Arizona history. $5 million paid to Gerard Williams for constitutional violations, emotional distress, and punitive damages. $750,000 allocated to 3 other verified victims of Hayes' discriminatory stops. Immediate termination of Officer Derek Hayes with permanent POST certification revocation. Forced resignation of 2 supervisors who dismissed complaints without proper investigation. 3-year federal consent decree requiring independent monitoring of all traffic stops involving luxury vehicles. Mandatory implicit bias training for all officers with annual recertification. Implementation of early warning system to flag officers with disproportionate stop patterns. Creation of independent civilian review board with authority to investigate and recommend discipline. Prohibition on using vehicle value or driver demographics as stop factors without additional criminal indicators.
quarterly public reporting of traffic stop data by officer, race, vehicle type, and outcome. The total package exceeded $7 million when accounting for monitoring costs and reform implementation. Officer Derek Hayes was escorted from the station the day settlement was announced. His POST certification permanently revoked. His name entered the National Decertification Database. His law enforcement career ended at age 29.
He offered no apology, made no statement. His attorney released brief comment. Officer Hayes regrets the situation, but maintains he acted based on his training. The video evidence, text messages, and deposition transcripts told a different story. Supervisors who dismissed complaints also faced consequences. Lieutenant Marcus Green was demoted to patrol officer. Captain Jennifer Walsh took early retirement rather than face termination. But individual accountability was only part. The consent decree mandated systemic changes reshaping how Scottsdale PD conducted traffic enforcement. Every stop involving vehicles valued over $50,000 now required documentation of specific criminal indicators beyond vehicle value. Officers with more than 3 racial profiling complaints faced automatic review. Bodycam footage from all luxury vehicle stops would be audited monthly by independent reviewers. At the settlement press conference, Jared delivered a statement capturing both personal experience and broader implications. I'm a senior partner at a major law firm. I have 3 Ivy League degrees. I've argued before federal courts. I built a career on understanding constitutional rights. And yet none of that protected me when Officer Hayes decided a black man couldn't possibly own a Maserati. None of my credentials, professional status, or knowledge prevented him from detaining me, assaulting me, and humiliating me in public. If this can happen to me, someone with resources, legal expertise, and public platform, imagine what happens to people without those advantages. This settlement is justice for me, but it's also a message. Racial profiling has consequences. Departments that enable discrimination will pay. Officers who act on bias will lose their careers, and victims will find accountability, even when the system tries to protect those who violated their rights. Community leaders praised the settlement while acknowledging ongoing challenges. The NAACP representative stated, "This victory came because Jared had video evidence, legal expertise, and public support. But how many others are profiled every day without those resources?" The reforms are important, but real change requires departments to address the bias that makes these reforms necessary. What change do you think would actually prevent cases like this? Jared Williams returned to his law practice, but the experience fundamentally changed his perspective. He'd spent years litigating civil rights cases, representing clients who'd been profiled, detained, discriminated against. He'd understood intellectually what they experienced, but until that July morning, he hadn't truly felt it. The humiliation of being accused of theft while refueling your own car. The frustration of showing credentials immediately dismissed. The fear when an officer's hand moves toward their weapon. The helplessness of knowing you're being violated but having no power to stop it in the moment. The rage at being treated like a criminal for existing while black. He still drives the Maserati, but now he carries multiple forms of identification. He keeps his phone accessible to record encounters. He's hyper-aware of how police perceive him, and he experiences anxiety every time he sees police nearby. The $5 million settlement provided compensation. The reforms created accountability. Hayes' termination delivered justice, but none of it erases the fundamental truth Jared learned that day. In America, for black people, authority is never automatic. Respect must be demanded, rights must be defended, and justice must be fought for. The body cam replays in silence. Jared simply fueling his own car, then Hayes storming in. The assumption, the accusation, the violation, and finally, the still frame of Hayes' panicked face after learning Jared was a federal lawyer. Because to some officers, authority is automatic, but respect, rights, and justice, those must be fought for. Before we go, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps bring more truth to light.